The skies above Kepler 186 shimmered with an unnatural aurora, casting eerie shadows across the titanium alloy domes of New Horizons colony. Colonial Administrator Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the strange atmospheric disturbance. After 3 years of managing humanity's most distant mining operation, she had learned to trust her instincts. Something was wrong. "Dr. Wallace, are you seeing these readings?" she called over the comm, addressing the colony's chief atmospheric scientist. "Yes, Administrator. The energy signatures are like nothing in our database. The closest comparison would be a quantum cascade, but the scale is..." His voice trailed off as new data streamed across their screens. That's when they saw them. Crystalline structures, massive and geometric, descending through the upper atmosphere. They refracted the planet's red sunlight, creating prismatic patterns that would have been beautiful if they weren't so terrifying. The aliens had arrived without warning, without communication, and without mercy. "Sound the emergency protocols," Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her chest. "Get everyone to their designated shelters. Now." The colony sirens began their haunting wail as 19,000 colonists scrambled for safety. Security Chief Diana Patel's voice crackled over the emergency channel. "Administrator, we're detecting energy surges from the crystalline objects." There. The first blast hit before she could finish her sentence. It wasn't an explosion, not in the conventional sense. Instead, a wave of pure energy swept through the colony's eastern sector, draining power from everything it touched. Lights flickered and died. Environmental systems went dark. And in their wake, the temperature plummeted. "They're feeding on our energy." Dr. Wallace's voice was barely a whisper. "Every system they touch, every power source. They're consuming it all." Sarah watched in horror as the crystalline entities descended further, their faceted surfaces pulsing with absorbed energy. The colony's defensive systems, designed to protect against meteor strikes and solar flares, proved useless against this unprecedented threat. Each energy blast from their weapons seemed to strengthen them, making them glow brighter, grow larger. In the chaos that followed, Sarah found herself racing through the corridors of the Central Administration Building. Emergency lighting cast red shadows as colonists rushed past her, some carrying children, others clutching whatever possessions they could grab. She reached the Emergency Command Center just as Chief Patel was organizing the security response. "What are our options?" Sarah demanded, scanning the tactical displays. "Limited," Diana replied grimly. "Conventional weapons are ineffective. They seem to absorb kinetic energy just as easily as electrical. We've lost contact with the eastern mining sectors, and the atmospheric processors are failing. Without them, we have maybe 6 hours of breathable air in the sealed sections." Before Sarah could respond, Dr. Amara Okafor, the colony's xenobiologist, burst into the command center. Her usual calm demeanor was replaced with an urgent excitement. "Administrator, you need to see this. The crystalline entities, they're not just feeding on energy. They're transforming it, changing its fundamental structure. It's like nothing we've ever encountered." A massive tremor shook the building, and Sarah grabbed the edge of the tactical display to stay upright. Through the reinforced windows, she could see more crystalline ships descending, their geometric forms blocking out the stars. "Chief Mining Engineer Rodriguez is reporting from the deep tunnels," Diana announced. "The mineral deposits down there. They're affecting the aliens' energy absorption somehow. They can't penetrate past certain depths." Sarah's mind raced, processing the implications. They couldn't fight these beings conventionally, but maybe they didn't have to. How many people can the mining tunnels hold? With emergency protocols, maybe 60% of the population, Diana calculated quickly. But the air recycling systems down there weren't designed for those numbers. "They'll have to be," Sarah decided. "Dr. Okafor, gather whatever research equipment you can salvage. Chief Patel, organize an evacuation to the lower levels. Dr. Wallace, I need you to figure out how to keep our people breathing down there. We're not losing this colony without a fight." As the command team rushed to execute her orders, Sarah took one last look at the alien ships through the window. Their crystalline surfaces now pulsed with the stolen energy of her colony, a testament to everything they'd already lost. But as she watched a group of colonists helping an injured man toward the mining elevator, she saw something else too: human resilience, determination, and the unwavering will to survive. The invasion had begun, but it was far from over. In the depths of Kepler 186f, humanity would regroup, adapt, and find a way to fight back. Sarah Chen had not led her people across the stars to watch them fall. The crystalline invaders would soon learn that humans were far more than just another source of energy to consume. Chief Mining Engineer Marcus Rodriguez stood in what had become their underground command center, surrounded by hastily assembled equipment and the constant hum of jury-rigged air recyclers. 3 weeks had passed since they'd retreated into the mines, and what had started as desperate survival was evolving into something else entirely. "The mineral composition is the key," he explained, pointing to the holographic display showing the mine's geological survey. "These veins of magnetite uranium composite don't just interfere with their sensors, they actively disrupt their energy absorption process." Sarah Chen studied the display, her face illuminated by its blue glow. The past weeks had aged her, but her eyes remained sharp. "Can we weaponize it?" "We already are," Marcus replied, leading her deeper into the tunnel network. They passed groups of colonists who had transformed mining stations into living quarters, their faces tired but determined. "Look at this." They reached a makeshift laboratory where Dr. Amara Okafor was working with a team of engineers. On the testing bench lay what looked like modified mining charges, their casings filled with crushed uranium ore. "We've managed to create localized disruption fields," Amara explained, her voice carrying the excitement of discovery. "When detonated, these devices release a cloud of uranium particles that temporarily nullifies their energy absorption abilities. It's not a weapon in the traditional sense, but it makes them vulnerable." Sarah finished. "How long does the effect last?" "About 3 minutes," Marcus answered. "Not long, but enough for conventional weapons to work. We've been modifying mining lasers to take advantage of these windows." A commotion from the communication hub interrupted their discussion. Diana Patel's voice crackled over the speakers. "We've got movement on the surface. They're deploying some kind of scanning array over the eastern quadrant." The leaders rushed to the monitors. The crystalline beings had constructed a massive lattice of energy-conducting pathways above their former home, its purpose unknown, but certainly not benign. "They're searching for us," Diana concluded. "But the uranium deposits are masking our presence, as long as we stay deep enough." "We can't stay hidden forever," Sarah interjected. "Our resources are limited, and the air recyclers are already at maximum capacity. We need to do more than just survive. We need to understand them." Amara stepped forward, her tablet displaying complex energy pattern analyses. "I've been studying the data from our surface sensors. These beings, they don't just consume energy, they process and store it in ways that defy our understanding of physics. It's as if they're trying to achieve something specific, something beyond mere sustenance." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "The patterns in their energy consumption aren't random. They're methodical, almost desperate." Their discussion was interrupted by a young colonist running into the command center. "Chief Rodriguez, we found something in the deep shaft excavation. You need to see this." The discovery was a new vein of uranium, but unlike anything they'd seen before. The crystals seemed to resonate at a frequency that matched the aliens' energy signatures. "This isn't just interference," Amara breathed, her instruments scanning the formation. "This is communication. The uranium, it's not just blocking their energy absorption, it's interacting with it. We might be able to use this to understand them." Sarah looked around at her team, seeing the same realization dawn on their faces. They had been thinking of this as a simple invasion, But what if it was something more complex? What if these crystalline beings were trying to tell them something? "Set up a research station here," she ordered. "Dr. Okafor, I want you working with Marcus to understand these energy patterns. Chief Patel, maintain our defense preparations, but let's focus on understanding before we escalate further." As the team dispersed to their tasks, Sarah remained in the tunnel, studying the glowing serenium crystals. They had fled underground expecting to wage a desperate resistance. Instead, they might have stumbled upon the key to understanding their mysterious invaders. The next phase of their struggle would require more than just courage and resourcefulness. It would demand wisdom and insight. The crystals pulsed with an otherworldly light, their message waiting to be decoded, while 19,000 human lives hung in the balance. In the depths of Kepler 186f, humanity was about to learn that survival sometimes meant more than fighting back. Sometimes it meant learning to listen to the very forces that threatened to destroy them. Dr. Amara Okafor hadn't slept in 36 hours, but she barely noticed. The patterns in the energy readings demanded her complete attention. She stood in the makeshift cynobiology lab, surrounded by screens displaying oscillating wavelengths and crystal resonance patterns. "There," she pointed, her hand trembling slightly from too much synthetic caffeine. "The energy signatures aren't random. They're cyclical, almost like a heartbeat," Marcus finished, leaning closer to the display. "Their entire crystalline structure pulses with it." The breakthrough had come after weeks of studying the serenium formations and comparing them to the aliens' energy patterns. What they found challenged everything they thought they knew about life itself. "They're dying," Amara announced to the assembled colony leadership. "These beings, they're not invading us for conquest. They're desperate for survival." Sarah Chen's expression remained neutral, but her fingers tightened on the edge of the briefing table. "Explain." "Their natural energy cycle is breaking down," Amara continued, bringing up comparative scans. "Each generation of energy absorption is less efficient than the last. They're like stars going nova, burning through their resources faster and faster just to maintain basic functions." Diana Patel, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. "So they're not just stealing our energy. They're trying to find a way to stabilize their own existence." "Exactly," Marcus confirmed, pulling up geological surveys. "And the serenium deposits in our mines. They're not just minerals. They're fossilized remains of similar crystalline beings that lived here millions of years ago. The aliens aren't invading. They're returning to their ancestral home, looking for a cure." The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. Their supposed invaders were refugees, dying refugees who saw the human colony as an obstacle to their survival. A young technician burst into the room, interrupting their contemplation. "Administrator Chen, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations on the surface. The crystalline entities, they're starting to fracture." The monitors showed it clearly. The largest of the alien structures was developing visible cracks, its once perfect geometric patterns beginning to fail. Energy leaked from the fissures like solar flares, making the colony's remaining sensors screen with alerts. "If that thing breaks down completely," Marcus warned, "the energy release could sterilize half the continent." Sarah stood, her decision already made. "Dr. Okafor, can we communicate with them using the serenium resonance patterns?" "Theoretically, yes, but no time for theories. Get it done." "Marcus, I need a way to safely channel massive amounts of energy." "Diana, prepare a surface team. We're going to help them." "Help them?" Diana's voice carried disbelief. "After everything they've done." Sarah's reply was firm. "They came here dying, finding their ancestral home occupied by strangers. We'd have done the same in their position. Besides, if we don't help them, none of us will survive what's coming." The next hours were a blur of activity. Amara and her team worked frantically to convert their research into a practical communication system, while Marcus repurposed mining equipment into energy conduits. The serenium crystals would serve as both translator and stabilizer, allowing them to communicate with the aliens while helping regulate their failing energy systems. As they worked, Amara couldn't help but marvel at the situation's irony. They had fled underground fearing extinction, only to find themselves working to prevent the extinction of their supposed enemies. The first attempt at communication was crude. Pulses of energy transmitted through serenium crystals in patterns matching the aliens' own rhythms. For long moments, there was no response. Then suddenly, the crystals blazed with new light, and patterns unlike anything they'd seen before filled their screens. "They're responding," Amara whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. "And they're afraid, just like us." The message they eventually decoded was simple but profound. Help, dying, children failing. In that moment, the nature of their struggle transformed. What had begun as an invasion had become something else entirely. A chance for two species, both fighting for survival, to find a way forward together. Sarah Chen looked at the desperate message, then at her team. "Let's show them what humanity does best," she said quietly. "We adapt, we solve problems, and sometimes we save not just ourselves, but those who needed our help all along." The real challenge was just beginning. Security Chief Diana Patel stood at the entrance of the main mining shaft, watching as engineers assembled the massive energy transfer array. What had started as a desperate plan for survival had evolved into something unprecedented. A collaboration between species. "The resonance chambers are aligned," Marcus called out, his voice echoing through the cavern. "We've got maybe 6 hours before the largest crystal entity reaches critical destabilization." The plan was audacious. They would use the mining tunnel's uranium deposits as a natural energy conduit, creating a network that could safely channel and stabilize the aliens' deteriorating energy patterns. But success wasn't guaranteed, and the risks were enormous. Sarah Chen's voice crackled over the comm. "Surface team, report status." "In position," Diana responded, checking her modified environment suit. The crystalline beings had transformed the surface into an alien landscape, beautiful and deadly. "Amara's translation array is ready. We're just waiting for your signal." The first contact team consisted of Diana, Dr. Okafor, and 3 engineers. They would approach the failing crystal entity, establish communication, and coordinate the energy transfer. If they failed, the resulting explosion would make the colony's original evacuation look trivial. "Beginning transmission," Amara announced, activating the uranium-based communicator. The crystals pulsed with otherworldly light, sending their message skyward. "We offer help. We understand. Let us approach." The response was immediate and overwhelming. The massive crystalline structure above them shifted, its faceted surface rippling like liquid glass. A path cleared through the energy field that had made the surface inaccessible for weeks. "They're listening," Amara breathed, her eyes fixed on her readings. "The patterns, they're becoming more coherent, more focused." Diana led the team forward, each step measured and careful. The alien structure loomed above them, its surface now showing visible signs of strain. Cracks spread across its geometric patterns, leaking energy that made their instruments spike wildly. "We're seeing critical stress patterns," Marcus reported from below. "Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it fast." Amara worked quickly, adjusting the communicator to match the entity's failing rhythms. "We're not just dealing with one being," she realized, her voice filled with wonder. "This structure, it's protecting thousands of them, multiple generations, including—" She paused, double-checking her readings, "including their equivalent of children." The revelation hit Diana hard. They weren't just preventing a catastrophic explosion. They were saving families. The parallel to their own situation, parents desperately trying to protect their children, was unmistakable. "Energy transfer array is charged," Marcus announced. "Ready on your mark." Diana looked at Amara, who nodded. This was the moment of truth. Either their understanding of the crystalline beings was correct, or initialize transfer sequence. Sarah commanded from the command center. The Xeranium network came alive, glowing with accumulated power. Energy began to flow from the mining complex into the alien structure, but not as a simple transfer. The Xeranium crystals modulated the flow, stabilizing and restructuring it to match the alien's natural patterns. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the cracks in the crystalline structure began to seal. The erratic energy leaks stabilized. The entire structure pulsed with a new rhythm, stronger, more regular. "It's working," Amara exclaimed, her eyes darting between instruments. "Their energy patterns are stabilizing. They're accepting the modified feed." But success brought its own challenges. The power drain on the colony's systems was enormous, pushing their generators to their limits. Warning alarms blared through the tunnels as systems approached critical levels. "We can't maintain this level of transfer," Marcus warned. "We'll burn out our entire power grid." That's when something unexpected happened. The crystalline structure began to change, its surface flowing like mercury. A small deformation separated from the main mass, descending until it hovered before the human team. Through the communicator came a new pattern, one Amara translated with shaking hands. "We teach you. Energy eternal. Together." Understanding dawned on Diana's face. The aliens weren't just accepting their help, they were offering knowledge in return. Knowledge about energy manipulation that could transform human civilization. "They're giving us the keys to their technology," Amara whispered. "Not just how to help them, but how to advance ourselves." Sarah's voice was firm over the comm. "Let's not waste their offer. Everyone, prepare for a long night. We got a lot to learn and a lot to teach." The crystal entity pulsed with a new light, almost like approval. On the surface of a distant world, two species had found not just understanding, but hope for a shared future. 3 months after first contact, New Horizons colony had been transformed. Crystal spires now rose alongside human structures, their surfaces pulsing with carefully modulated energy that powered both species' needs. Where there had once been invasion and terror, now stood a testament to adaptation and cooperation. Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed synthesis chamber, watching human engineers work alongside crystalline beings to fine-tune the energy distribution network. The aliens, now known as the Lumini, had taught them to reshape matter at its most fundamental level, while humanity had shown them how to stabilize their failing life cycles. "The latest generation is showing perfect stability," Amara reported, her eyes bright with excitement. "The Xeranium integration method worked better than we could have hoped." Through their shared efforts, they had discovered that the Lumini's deterioration could be halted by incorporating processed Xeranium into their structure. The very mineral that had once blocked their energy absorption now helped regulate it. "Administrator," called Marcus from his station, "you need to see this." The deep scan results just came in. The holographic display showed a network of crystalline formations deep within the planet, ancient Lumini structures, preserved in the planet's crust. But they weren't dead, as originally thought. They were dormant, waiting. "It's a seed bank," one of the Lumini communicated through the translator array, its crystalline form shimmering with complex patterns. "Our ancestors left these to preserve our species, knowing we would one day need to return." Diana Patel, who had been overseeing security for the joint operation, stepped forward. "And now we can help wake them," she said, understanding dawning in her eyes. "That's why you need our mining technology." The Lumini pulsed in agreement. Their species had evolved to traverse space by riding energy waves between stars, but they had lost the ability to dig deep into planets, the very skill they needed to reach their ancestral backup plan. "We propose expansion," the Lumini continued, "not conflict. Together, we reach further, build more, learn more." Sarah looked around the chamber, seeing hope where there had once been fear. The colony had not just survived, it had discovered something unprecedented, a true symbiosis between species that couldn't have been more different. "We'll need to contact Earth," she said finally. "This changes everything." our understanding of life, energy, space travel itself. The next few hours were filled with planning sessions. The Lumini shared their knowledge of energy-based space travel, a method that could revolutionize human exploration. In return, humanity offered its expertise in planetary exploitation and material sciences. But it was more than just a technological exchange. The Lumini's presence had begun to influence human culture, just as human creativity and adaptability had impacted the crystalline beings. Children born in the colony grew up understanding both species' languages. Art emerged that combined human emotion with Lumini energy patterns. "We never imagined this," Amara said softly, watching a group of human children playing near a young Lumini cluster, their laughter mixing with the musical hum of crystalline communication. "When they first appeared in our sky, we thought it was the end. Instead, it was a beginning," Sarah replied. She touched the small crystalline growth on her shoulder, a gift from the Lumini, allowing direct communication between their species. Similar symbiotic crystals had been offered to key colony personnel, bridging the gap between their different forms of consciousness. As the red sun set on Kepler 186f, casting prismatic lights through the crystal spires, Sarah reflected on how far they'd come. The colony had faced extinction and emerged not just surviving, but transformed. They had proved that humanity's greatest strength wasn't just its resilience or intelligence, but its capacity to turn enemies into allies, to find common ground in the most unlikely places. The stars above held new promise now. With Lumini energy manipulation and human ingenuity combined, no distance was too great, no challenge too daunting. Together, they would reach further than either species could alone. Ready for the first test of the hybrid drive, Marcus called out, indicating the newly constructed ship that combined human and Lumini technology. Sarah smiled, touching the crystal on her shoulder. "Ready," she replied, in both human speech and energy patterns. "Let's show the universe what we can do together." The sun set on a colony that was no longer just human, no longer just a mining operation, but something entirely new, a blueprint for the future, where difference didn't mean conflict, and first contact didn't have to end in war. It was the beginning of humanity's next great adventure, and they wouldn't be taking it alone.